Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Living Process Pattern a Day. I'm David Getson here at wonderful Arroyo Outdoor in South Pasadena. And before we get to Agricultural Valleys pattern number 4, I thought I'd also, if you would like to support this and see things to continue, we'll have Patreon up and soon, but please like, share, and subscribe, comment below. We're here in a beautiful overcast day. You can tell there's no need for a hat. And one of the things that we do here is tiles. This is more of a form language thing than a pattern language thing. But take a look at this. This is kind of the beauty of recombinatory stuff. If you set tiles up like this, it looks one way. And watch this, huh? And we get this to turn. Ta-da. See, this is, and that's a very simple thing. It's not even some type of trick. You could all know what was going to happen. But just go back and forth. This is something called the mirror of the self test. Look at the pattern that was happening before and the pattern after. And it became kind of less intense, less alive, and like this, more coherent, more intense, and more alive. So there's this kind of vibrance and vitality. This is one of the hallmarks of design that's so exciting and so wonderful, is that when you make simple decisions like that, about how the geometry and the color and the shape come together, it makes a difference, not just in the way things look, but a difference in the way that you feel when you're near it. And to me, that's the whole point of design, is to make things that are wonderful to be with and wonderful to be around and suiting and fitting. Now, how do you fit the landscape into a mix of agriculture and city? This is the thorny issue, the Aristotelian mean, the conflict sought to be resolved with pattern language in the pattern of number 4, agricultural valleys. So let's get into it. The land which is best for agriculture happens to be best for building too. But it is limited, and once destroyed, like that poor person's glass, it cannot be regained for centuries. Therefore, preserve all agricultural valleys as farmland and protect this land from any development that would destroy or lock up the unique fertility of the soil, even when the valleys are not cultivated now. Protect them, keep them for farms, parks, and wilds. Weirdly enough, California did the exact opposite. The opposite of this. What they did is they created open space preserves on hills, which are important and pretty to look at. And then the play, we talked about this last time with Where's the Orange Grove? You know, the places like not just a valley, yes, not just a valley, the valley, being almost completely blitzed over with concrete and tract houses. And some of the houses are nice, you know, but they were built in the 70s. How good can they be? But sorry, but so this is an interesting pattern. Most of them are. California did the opposite of this. One of the challenges of this is that you have to, if you're restricting the development of houses and demand goes up, which it will unless you have a declining population, then the price of houses is going to go up. You have to add capacity somehow. This one is not given, I don't think it's given the multiple dots or something. It's not considered as strong a pattern as the other ones that, say, for example, the one that's behind me, where you have light on, one is probably in where you live, where you have light on 2 sides. That's a pretty strong solution. This one, it's a good idea to keep in mind when you can do it, but it implies other things. One thing that's really important about how this links, pattern language helps develop and helped further, I don't know if it invented, but it was pretty early, it helped further the concept of hyperlinks. When it was the paper book, it would have little, like choose your own adventure. Choose your own adventure was a hyperlink thing, and it was in paper. So this is hyperlink conceptually, where at the end of each pattern, each pattern relates to other patterns. And so let's see what this pattern is related to that they say. I would say it's related to some patterns that aren't in here, but it relates to city country fingers and relates to the countryside, which is coming up. That's pattern number 7. I would say something that's not in the book. I would say that this pattern relates to 4-story limit, which is one of the most fun ones. Leon Krier, a famous architect and theorist, goes on about 4-story limit. I think that you need what we now call gentle density. If you're going to have these agricultural areas preserved, you need to densify in a smart way, not in a stupid way like Cabrini Green, but in a smart way like Somerville in Boston. You know, Somerville is one of the densest populated areas in the United States, and there's no building above 6 floors. Doesn't feel particularly congested. Definitely doesn't feel like Manhattan. And I think that Frank Lloyd Wright talked about skyscrapers as causing traffic. He was one of the first people to do this, and he didn't fill in the dots yet about skyscrapers causing freeways, but it was pretty implicit. And he said this in the 30s. In the early 30s, the Depression had hit, and this might have been during his Princeton lectures. This is in a book that I have called The Future of Architecture. I made a good PDF scan of it, where he talked about you're going to have people coming to and from what you build. And if you build something that's taller than 30 stories, you're going to wreck the fabric around it in one of 2 ways. Either you're going to create, you know, a Jimi Hendrix song with crosstown traffic. You have all this snarly stuff like you do in Manhattan, but Manhattan addresses this with an extensive subway system. I love Manhattan. And then the other thing that would happen is what happened in a lot of American cities, where you start seeing Houston is a good example of this. You start seeing the parking lots everywhere surrounding the skyscrapers, and then you get the freeways, because people aren't gonna, it's not particularly pleasant to live next to these things, to the parking lots and the skyscrapers, not when they're like that. So people live somewhere pleasant, which is far out, and then they all have to drive to a concentrated office. So city country fingers, if you're going to be preserving the landscape, you should be very careful with skyscrapers. And you should be, it would help to have a kind of clustered village density, which I think people are moving towards now. We're certainly seeing this with the so-called work from anywhere situation, the remote work thing happening. But the remote work, obviously, not everyone. There's some weird solipsistic people who think that, oh, everyone can remote work. But no, it's the stuff that's for office buildings. There will be in-person work. For example, what I do with a team for design and drafting, you can do it remote. Heaven knows I have done it remotely. It's not as good. It's not as efficient. Your efficiency in communication and creativity goes down when you can't sit at a table, or even sitting with your computers next to each other, and one guy says, "Hey Bob, how do you," and then you look over there and you look. And that's just better and faster in person. Whiteboard examples, working with transparency paper. All our designs start with transparency paper, all of them. Other companies I've worked with as well do that. It's a good way to do things. So we live in interesting times, don't we? The office buildings are being replaced. It's disruptive, it's difficult, and I think that that's a well-supervised metro station. So the situation with office buildings is that we're going through a transition. Not that I have all that much sympathy for the Austrian School of Economics, but it is important to remember what Schumpeter said about creative destruction, is that during times of economic disruption, you have times of crisis force the old systems to go away and the new systems to emerge. It's necessary. I don't think it's something to celebrate. The neoconservative, libertarian types, I wouldn't want to offend libertarians. They ruined libertarianism, but no. There's going to be a lot of churn, a lot of innovation happening. The Silicon Valley stuff, the Wild West of that is over. As I said recently online, the Wild West of education innovation is just beginning. And if you're watching this, you're part of it. And I know who you are. No, I don't. I wish I knew who you were, because then we can make it better. So, anyways, it's a Sunday morning, isn't it? Thank you very much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll be having lots of fun. I at least think it's fun. So, thank you for listening.